Hi everyone, we'll have a mock interview today. Asim will be the interviewer and DP is going to be interviewee. Let's get started, Asim and DP. How do you folks?
Okay. Hey DP,
I think.
we will be doing designing a notification service today, and think in that way that there is a producer who is producing message, and and producer wants all its subscribers to get that message. So think in that way, we have a kind of a topic where a producer can publish messages, and whoever has subscribed to that will receive that message. Simple. You might have seen like other places also how notification thing go if you're familiar.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. So what you're describing to me is like, okay, you subscribe to something, and then when somebody posts a message, then they get the notification.
Yeah, and subscription could be of different types. It could be SMS, email, HTTPS, or other way.
Okay. I see. So let me, as you're saying, I just want to capture,
Mhm.
requirements wise. So we are talking about publisher subscriber
Mhm.
model, and you said subscriber will subscribe to a topic or something,
Mhm.
and anytime something is published, um,
Mhm.
they get the notification.
Mhm. But here our main agenda is the notification, kind of a notification service. There
Okay,
could be different paradigm for pub sub model, but here the problem we are trying to solve is a notification service.
I see. So when we say specifically notification service, we are talking about like the input is like publisher sending a message for a
Hmm.
topic, and eventually as an output, we want it to be consumed by a set of subscribers.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So that's the kind of the interface we are talking about.
Hmm.
So whom are we building this for? Is it like, I'm thinking of like how many subscribers I can think about, or how many request messages around that scale.
Right now, I think just think about a simple service we are building for a cloud provider, and who's going to launch this service for, let's say, in a North America region.
Okay. Okay. So it's like that
So
it's
basically,
a cloud service. Yeah.
kind of a cloud service where I'm doing a public offering and people can start using it.
Okay. So I can assume like lots of subscribers and
Yeah,
just that way.
there could be a lot of subscribers, there could be a lot of publishers,
Okay. Um,
but yes, subscriber ratio is more than the publisher.
subscribers and publishers and messages.
Hmm. Hmm.
Subscribers and publishers.
Hmm.
Um, Given this is a notification service, talking about the, like the message itself, which is a part of notification. So is it will be like, what would be the size of the, message?
It would be like really small. I'm not thinking about more than a KB. It should be really small.
10 KB or something.
Hmm.
Um, that makes sense. And are we also considering like in terms of priority of messages, like some, top, let's say, promotional messages will be relatively lower priority, and, you know, like the processed will be medium tier and stuff like that.
So right now, there's a valid ask, but right now I'm not looking for the priority of message. So you can
In
think
version 2.
about later. Yeah.
And that makes sense. Maybe I'll have more, questions around this type as I go on.
Okay.
But also now kind of drilling a little more into, let's say I like to think around in terms of some of these are functional requirements, but
Mm-hmm.
also like to think around what would be my system behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of it you described, publisher sending a message and all that. So I like to write it as in terms of API, high level, that my system should support. So I'm thinking like you're saying something like you talked about topics, right? Different categories. So like a create topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can be like a publish message, publisher, and it publishes to a certain topic.
Mm-hmm.
Which these are not the exact APIs, but the general idea. And then there would be subscribers can subscribe, right, to a certain topic.
Mm-hmm.
And also I need another API for actually sending the message.
Okay.
Um, this is that. Now, also, how about the like the ordering of messages? My first thought was it's a notification. Ordering may not matter, but what are we designing it for? Do the
Uh,
messages need to be in certain order, or it's just asynchronous?
so right now, thinking that way, ordering does not matter. But okay, so when you say ordering, what exactly that mean?
Yeah, like like let's say publisher is sending messages, right? And it's in a certain like let's say timestamp based in general, right?
Mhm.
Is
Mhm.
it like they have to be consumed in the same order, or is it more like okay, I send a message about like notification service, right, for social media. So I send notifications to the subscribers, and they can appear in any order as long as they appear, as long as they are delivered.
Okay, so right now, I'm not so much worried about ordering. If that is not ordered, that is also fine. But we can circle back later if we need ordering or not, based on your like, design behavior,
Yeah.
like whether like it could be issue later if things go really
Okay.
off.
Because that's kind of, yeah, we can circle back, but I'm having some high level ideas about the kind of, parallel systems that exist in real world,
Mhm.
about topics and stuff. So I was thinking around that. Now,
So,
what about the other question is about duplicate messages, right? Um, should we like, for example, a publisher sends a message, right?
mm,
And before it gets an acknowledgement, let's say acknowledgement gets lost that the message has been, published or something, but
mhm.
by some way, like message gets into the system, but the publisher happens to retry, let's say maybe a timeout or something, and the same message can get delivered to the subscriber twice, right? That
So
way.
you're telling that
I'm saying, is it something we need to worry about for now, or
the- uh, what do you think if you're getting a duplicate notifications as a customer, what would be
right?
your take?
It kind of depends. I'm thinking around, for example, if I have an order processing system, right? Like when I place an order on Amazon, if I
Mhm.
get, let's say, two emails about your order is under processing, right? I don't think I would mind that rather than losing something or, any issues around that.
But if you get 10 emails,
Well, I mean, sure, there should be a limit, right? I can't get 10 emails for the same thing, but
mhm.
it's like a read. That's where my next question was about retry mechanism, right? I can put a limit that I can only get, let's say, three messages at the max for this. So these two things that we are tied.
So are you defining agreement with your end users that I can
One way I'm thinking that's kind of possible.
send you three duplicates, like don't worry about that?
I mean, that's something I'm kind of high level thing, considering that depending on my application, what is acceptable,
Yep.
right?
But
Uh,
so, okay, so I think for now, to proceed further, I'll say one or two duplicates are fine. But
okay.
I really want that we can avoid duplicates.
Avoid engine. So are we saying no duplicates?
No, duplicates are fine, but my end goal would be like I don't want to
Yeah,
like the same
stress
notification
the system with the,
and where my customers would not happy like they're getting same notification.
makes sense, makes sense. So that is that. Um, all right, and we talked about the message size, yeah. Now talking, so this is what I have in mind. And for non-functional, right, I'm thinking like it should definitely be a durable system, because once a message is published, I don't want them to be lost, right? Um, that's one. The other thing, correct me if I'm, like,
Mhm.
the something is not how we want it, but I also want the system to be like highly available, right? So there shouldn't be any like single point of failure that brings the whole network down.
Mhm.
The other thing I'm thinking is in terms of scalability. My number of subscribers can increase, or or even publishers for that matter, or messages. Um, then also ability to handle failures, like the typical in general, right? When we are building a system of this scale in a distributed fashion, um, then able to respond to any failures gracefully. Kind of, um,
Mhm.
what-
Mhm. Okay. I think
and
these
also
we
what in general the other question would be like in terms of latency, right? And it goes back to the, I think we can hold on to it given that you said the priority of messages is in version 2.
Mhm.
Thinking about what is the latency like for very important messages, right? Notifications, we might have lower latency
Mhm.
compared to some
Okay.
professional messages.
See, our priority ordering is right now is not a priority, so you can deliver as soon as you can.
Okay, okay. So low end-to-end latency.
Yeah, I'm expecting low, but you can go at how you want to do. But I think these all looks good to me.
Okay.
Okay.
So I like to, if we are good with this, I like to start by a high level, diagram of what
Sure.
the system would look like. Uh,
Mhm.
so I can try to draw it with shapes rather than drawing, just because of the tool thing.
Okay. Either
Uh,
way, if you do want to do a paper pen, I'm also good with that.
so let's, let me put a text box here. Sorry, I don't want to get rid of this, so I want to keep this requirements here. Um,
Mhm.
I can't change the size here. Okay.
Mhm.
There is a plus icon. Can you add another
Or I
page?
can, or I
Oh,
can do this. Yeah.
okay. I think that helps.
I think you can try with the drawing, the pen. I'm fine if it is not that perfect.
Okay. But can we try this thing the way I'm doing?
The free flow is fine for me. Either any direction it go, I don't care.
Okay. So I'm thinking like, okay, how to think? There are a couple of ways to look at it, right? If I can start with a simple model, right?
Sure.
Say I have a publisher and I have a set of people who are subscribed to certain
Mhm.
topic. So let me call it actually. Yeah. So I have like one publisher, right? And we can scale it to like multiple. That would be the next step. But I'm thinking we have a publisher and I have a set of servers, right? Like application servers, something,
Mhm.
request. And I have them as a like a set of servers, right?
Mhm.
Now, given that, I mean, as a general pattern, whenever I have a set of services and publisher is trying to, connect to this, I like to think of, I mean, a general paradigm would be to put a sort of a load balancer here.
Mm-hmm.
So my idea is that, is this a drawing?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying I'll try to hit this server set, application server via load balancer.
Mm-hmm.
If we think about the requirements back here, in basic terms of core requirements, we are saying we want to publish a message. We want to publish a message based on a topic, right? So in terms of my entities, right, I need in my design,
Mm-hmm.
a set of topic,
Mm-hmm.
looking for a set of subscribers,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also looking at messages, right? A message text.
You are 3 entities.
Yeah, 3 entities.
One
And
all topic. And then, okay, sounds fair.
right. And and I can, so I'm drawing a very high level. I can, we can refine it as we go. But the other, now based on these entities, I will have, and in terms of the flow, when publishes a message, it is, even before publishing, stepping back about creating a topic, right? So since that's an entity, so I'll have a, okay. So I have like a topic, database sort of. I need a set of topics, and I also need a set of subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
Let me call it just database or data store. And then I also need a store, a message store sort of thing. Right? Now, one question I'm getting here is when we are sending these messages, what's like the retention period, right? If it's immediately delivered, then I would expect that this can just go away from the store. But what if a subscriber is not available, right? Then possibly when it comes back, then
Yes.
I can deliver it then.
It should be there for few days till.
Okay.
That.
So there would be like, storage. It can't be like a very, like a small storage because we need to store some days of data.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be my message store. And the API wise, right, like I have, and I will also have a set of, let's say here, subscriber 1.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. And when I now going back to my API, and I had like create a topic. So when I send that request here, what are my possibilities? That topic might already exist, right? Like if I'm just trying to send a request, or I'm creating a new topic, basically. I mean, let's look at the second case, right?
Like you create a topic, it's not there. I think that flow is fine for me.
Okay. So let's go with
doing this publish message thing.
Okay. All right. So let's kind of, then that is not that.
Right now, I'm assuming like if looking at your entities, you would able to create topic, subscribers.
Yeah.
So I think that flow is clear to me.
Okay. So then I think let's kind of think about, publish message, right? So if we are looking at, so my flow for that would look like I have a publish message. I have a message, right? So now that hits my servers, right? And the thing is, I need to kind of, I have a topic associated with it. So probably I would need to retrieve, let's say, topic ID or something from the database, right? Topic database. And I will um, uh, I will kind of save the message to the message store. First, I need to get the topic ID from my database. And then once I do that, then I save the message to the message, right? With that topic ID and message. Now, next thing that needs to happen is before that, I also assume that let's say this subscriber, uh, based on this subscribe topic name API, they have subscribed to my, I have saved them in my subscriber database. Correct. Now, when I want to say send message, at this point, my message, I mean, I can have another component actually, sort of a sender thing here. So what, so that component needs to pick the message from here, right? And it needs to find the subscribers.
So basically, just want to reiterate what happened till now. What is a proposal here is when the message will come, you will send it to message store, and what we'll do with the topic database?
Yeah, so because the message is associated with the topic, right? Different messages can be in different, like.
So we are putting that in the message store with the topic ID.
Yes, yes.
Okay, got it.
And then there is a sender component, which is kind of reading these messages, as they are coming. And it's also pulling the list of subscribers, right, which are subscribed to that topic. And then it is sending the messages to the, isn't there a color pen? Okay. And then it basically sends it to the subscribers who are subscribed to it.
Okay.
Right. But I mean, and also I can think of this a way because, I mean, in my mind, subtly as I was describing this, I'm kind of doing it in a sort of an asynchronous, manner. The moment you mentioned about topic, I thought of things like, in general, the real world tools like Kafka and stuff, which are kind of asynchronous. So can I make that assumption? Like is that thought process okay? Like asynchronous and stuff?
Yeah, asynchronous is fine. I think that is the kind of, if you don't care about ordering and priority, you can do things really asynchronous way.
Right. So on that note, I'm thinking like the way that general model works is publisher sends this message, and when it lands in the message store, right? At that point, my architecture, or even in general, my messaging queue, if I can say that way, that is responsible for ensuring that it gets sent to the subscribers, right? So I can also, once the message lands in my message store, I can also send a notification to subscriber that it has been published.
Sorry. So you are okay.
Because after this is the point at which I, as a publisher, I care about, right? That it's kind of in the queue. And then it's the responsibility of my architecture, queuing architecture, and in general, the right side of things, where I need to ensure that they are not lost.
Sounds good. Okay, let's deep dive on this thing. It looks pretty interesting. How your message store would look like and how.
Yeah.
So let's do some deep dive on this.
Yeah, sure. So I was thinking like in terms of the entities and what I'm describing here in the middle, right? I have three different sort of type of databases, right? And we can, so like I have topic, subscribers, the message store.
No, I'm pretty much interested in the message store.
Message store, okay, sure. So message store, I mean, my first thought was before we started discussing this, I was kind of in my mind thinking around like relational versus NoSQL. But now that we are also talking about asynchronous and, topics, streaming and, these message queues are also the options that are coming to mind. Do you want to kind of me to go in a certain, these were my thought process about the message stores.
So basically, your message store is holding the message, and sender says that sender component which you mentioned has to send to a subscriber, correct?
Correct. I mean, I can argue for both of these types of, how if I were to design a message store, I can give arguments about both these approaches, right? Like when I would think around relational versus NoSQL or stream processing.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to, see if you are interested in.
So I would be interested, like you pick one and we proceed.
Okay. Okay.
If you want to discuss
Yeah.
it and say and you have something like which one should be better, I'm fine.
Okay. Okay.
Also,
So
like what next I want to see that end-to-end kind of flow.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So quickly then talking about just in general the trade-offs, right? In general, we know about stream processing, like Kafka stuff is good based on characters. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, based on the characteristics we talked about, right? Like async processing and ordering not important.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, within a topic, I mean, that's another thing we can talk, but right now we are saying ordering not important. And also I am going for like, yeah, so in general, stream processing, this is good. And by the nature of that, these are the pros for stream processing. But if I kind of take a step back and see what my system requires, right? And then try to map it to these different categories. So
Mm-hmm.
I want my message store to be durable, right? I don't want messages to be lost. Once
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't really see the need why we, like in terms of relational databases, we usually talk about ACID requirements, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my thought process is this is not really a transaction or like a banking transaction sort of thing. So I'm not sure if we really need this here. Would that be the right assumption?
Yeah, looks like yeah, you're right.
Okay, so this is my biggest proponent when I think about relational. So if
Mhm.
you don't need it, um, then
So you will be liking, you will be doing a lot of read and writes.
yeah.
So
Oh, okay, yeah, that is a good
like
point
you can
actually.
take a call like what you exactly want.
Yeah, like I think I need a highly read and write scalable, right?
Mhm. And you're right. We don't care about relationships here, asset properties. So you can
Yeah,
take
so
a.
yeah, relationships between messages and stuff. So that kinds of like, I don't really need, even if I think of NoSQL, I don't even need graph or something like that's what's telling me. Um,
So let's say if we take a NoSQL, what kind of database would you like to pick?
yeah, so if we take NoSQL, the categories are key value stores, column family,
Uh,
document stores, or graph databases, right?
okay. So which one you think
Now,
is
yeah,
great
you
here?
talked about, you mentioned that there are no relationships.
Mhm.
Really? So graph, probably no, right? And you talked about the message size, that it's not very big, right? So that tells me that that's where I think that document may not be, appealing.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm thinking now key value is a good concept or column family, but I think I would lean towards key value because column family is also more towards when you're trying to build a cluster. Like I don't have a very deep understanding of, like, I haven't worked on stores particularly. Like I know what they like Cassandra is a column family and stuff, but I just know high level that when you have multiple attributes, right, like multiple columns, and you're trying to create families, clusters of them, sort of stuff, then you need more of that data store. But
Sure.
I think for the kind of thing we need, probably key value should suffice.
Okay, I think we can get started with key value and
Okay.
move to the.
Okay. So, so key value is, and um, and for my other two databases like topic and subscribers, they are more like I would say read heavy, because once I save a list, right? Um,
But right now, I'm not so much worried about that topic and subscriber database. So you can
they're
proceed.
like small ones, yeah.
Message store.
Okay. So then, yeah. So we are going with key value here. So now I'm thinking there are various ways I can look at this high level architecture, right? In terms of, you know, refining it or like bottlenecks I'm seeing. Um,
No,
I,
but before going, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, I was thinking like, I can kind of deep dive into this high level by breaking it into subcomponents. But depending on where, if you have a particular area in mind.
I want like when from keys message store to send a subscriber, I want to see how that works. So you told
Okay.
message store would be a key value pair.
Yeah.
I assume when you say key value, it could be like any existing key value stores available in the market. We can come back to
Right.
that later, but I understood like when you say key value pair. So I want to see how now the message landing to your key value pair. What will happen next? How your sender will taking action.
Okay. So the sender component essentially will pick the message from store, right? And I'm just trying to break it down and think about, and it needs to communicate, it needs to read the list of subscribers,
Mm-hmm.
and then it sends the message. Um, the question would be, so I talk, so maybe let me just, write my thoughts here.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
We are focusing on this aspect, right? Um, I'm talking about my sender. There are a couple of functionalities it needs to do. Read, pick a message,
Mm-hmm.
store, um, get list of subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
Third is send the messages.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, one thing is, can I? So if I look at this workflow, what are the areas that I need to consider, right? When I read the message from message store,
Mm-hmm.
there, like, I don't want to hit the message store too hard, right? I don't want to just totally flood it, and if it comes down, then I mean that is a whole different thing, right?
Uh,
Um,
right now again I'm not that worried like it will go down. So I believe your sender will pick up a message and get
okay.
subscriber. So what will happen now? Okay, if you can
Um,
or something to share like.
yeah. So I'm thinking about, like, when we say, you're saying that let's assume that it has picked message and subscribers. So you want to focus on this piece here, like
Mm-hmm.
sending piece, right? So the things to consider here are, what if, and the reason I'm saying things to consider is that's how I'm thinking about what I need. Um, so when I send a message, now if I have, let's say, a lot of subscribers, right? Similar to like a Twitter feed, right? I have a lot of followers.
Mm-hmm.
How can I have a system that can, sort of do that efficiently, right? Like a parallel sort of approach to
Mm-hmm.
send a message. The other thing is, what if a message delivery fails, right? I need to have some mechanism to say that, uh, if the message doesn't get delivered, then I have to resend it. Right. So in terms of delivery, I need one. So let me pick the first idea, like parallelizing the delivery, right? So I'm thinking if I can have one idea.
So when you say paralyzing, it's like you're saying that it's picking up a message and
Yeah.
a lot of subscribers for that
Yeah.
message.
So I'm thinking like, having something like a sort of a threading architecture, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
um, or like a sender, so I can say a message. I don't know.
Mhm.
What should be the name? I'm just getting confused. Message tracker or message delivery, something like some component like that.
Mhm.
Communicate basically. So, and there will be so there will be like a thread of these, right? Uh,
Okay.
these, right? Basically, that's the idea of parallelism here. So I will have set of message delivery threads,
Okay.
and they should communicate. So my sender basically can spawn a set of threads,
Mhm.
and and actually that's one thought that's coming to mind is, since I have to think of scalability, right? Some subscribers can be increase or decrease, and based on the topic, I can also have some mechanism to handle these number of threads, right? uh, so essentially I'm saying, rather than having this direct send mechanism here, like rather than this, right, I will possibly have like these threads actually delivering to these in parallel,
Okay.
right?
And
Um, and
once
for
the
that,
message from the message store, what will happen? You will delete it or you will still have it there?
yeah, so I think for that, I need to ensure that the message has been, uh, so that's a good question. So let's say, so the time when I delete a message from message store is
Mm.
when I know that it has been received, right?
Okay.
I don't need to process that further.
And how you will make sure that it's received?
Yeah, yeah. So on that note, the question of receiving is whether it's received by all, right?
Mhm.
Versus whether it's received like by subset of my subscribers.
Mhm.
How do I define kind of that policy? Um, so let me take that case by case. So if a simple mechanism would be, I need to keep the message in the store. Actually, sorry, I'm just jumping around, but I'm thinking aloud
Mm.
that if I have a message in the store and it gets delivered to, let's say, one subscriber out of two,
Okay.
and if I don't delete it from the store, then
Uh-huh.
I need to make sure that it doesn't get delivered to the, subscriber one again, right?
Okay.
Either I need that mechanism if I want to retain it, right?
Okay.
Or I need some way,
Mhm.
need sort of way which kinds of, if something fails, like if say message delivered to one but not to two, right?
Mhm.
Then I need some sort of data structure to tell me that I need to retry this message to this subset of subscribers,
Okay.
right? And I can delete it from my main message store.
And
So
then, okay.
maybe I can have sort of a hierarchy, like sort of, an auxiliary, or sort of kind of retry attempts, something, not a great name, but retry, like auxiliary message store, let's call it. This will basically hold the message, uh, the subscriber to which it hasn't been delivered yet, and
Mhm.
maybe the attempt ID or something. Like in the future, if I want to consider the retry attempts feature, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure it's not, like the architecture doesn't keep trying beyond, let's say, 3 or beyond 5 attempts. So I need to keep track of that. So let's say if there is a failure here, then that message that triggers another, sort of insert into this database.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment a message leaves message store, uh, I mean, I can ideally delete it. I mean, once it's picked up by at least one subscriber, I can delete it from here. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so that's one way. But if I go that route, right? Let's consider the worst case. Let's say I'm delivering, let's say, 100 messages, and for some reason my subscriber 2 and 3 are down.
Mm-hmm.
Then I will keep, you know, kind of hitting this database. And what would be the balanced approach? So other approach can be, maybe if I have a ratio, right? Like you said, 1 or 2 duplicates are allowed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If I keep that in mind, like I don't want to increase this database to an unreasonable, extent just to save space on this, right? I'm thinking of a little more balanced approach. So if I have, let's say, 50% of my subscribers covered, um, something like that, or maybe the geographic locations, right? What's the network cost involved? For example, subscriber one is more, it's more expensive
Mm-hmm.
versus other. So having some sort of criteria which helps me define, okay, I am covered with 50% of my subscribers and I'm left with 50%. So maybe this model will work. But if I only deliver to 10% of my subscribers and rest are down, right? Then do I really want to load this database with all these 9 subscribers left? Or do I want to just go with the duplicate attempt, right? Uh, that's something I'm thinking more from the requirements perspective, like that should define it. Um,
So, okay, I have another question. I think that might be simplify the things. When you say subscriber 1, 3, so typically there could be different types of subscribers. Could be email, SMS, HTTPS. So you want to categorize them in a separate component
oh,
and see how that.
yeah. Yeah, right. So, okay. So if we are also keeping that into account, then I would say, like at this point, right, where I have message delivery threads, I can further split it up into, like, what you said, like one responsible for SSMS, one for email.
So when I say link, like, there could be another components which could be only for SMS, only for email. So your thread can send it to that component, and that component will decide what.
Okay.
So the responsibility. I'm just
Yeah,
throwing some ideas based on your flow.
right. Right. So yeah, you're saying like if I have some, like, rather than putting it right here, yeah, that can be more like a microservice driven, right? More like separation of concerns. So I can have something like, another component, which is like a SMS delivery,
Mm-hmm.
or I can have an email delivery thread.
Mm-hmm.
So, and these message threads, again, rather than them responsible for this, I can actually split it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the thing. And I can, and then these further can deliver to my.
Mm-hmm.
So here, I have just one question, just to clarify. So the subscribers here are like the topic subscribers or the actual subscribers who are supposed to get SMS or email?
I'm sorry, I didn't. Naga, can you say it again?
So the subscribers that you have here, is it
Yeah.
the topic subscriber or they're the actual subscribers who are supposed to get SMS or email?
I'm thinking of it as Asim can clarify, but I'm thinking more as these subscribers are subscribed to a topic. They have subscribed to a topic, but they are also the actual subscribers, right? Like, for example, when I subscribe to, like a blog post or something or certain, category, then so I have subscribed to some topic, but at the end of it, I'm thinking of it as an end user, like my actual subscribers.
Mhm.
Is that
Yeah, even I visualize when you are explaining this in that way.
Yeah, that clarifies. So that was the
okay?
question.
Okay.
But now, based on this approach, that's why I thought like there should be some middle layer which would be doing, which would be handling connecting to server. Otherwise, yeah, that's what my suggestion. Okay, Gippy, can you go proceed further and we can wrap
Yeah.
it?
So, right. So this is how I'm thinking of, and we kind of, talked about like what if one um, a message to a subscriber fails, right? Then I'm thinking of this auxiliary store, or um, or a timeout is another.
So all these components which you mentioned would have a common auxiliary store, or they can have their own.
Which come like the SMS and delivery.
Mhm.
Actually, I can have, if we are breaking it up like that, I should also have, I can have, uh, this is interesting. So it can go back to the initial thought I had about priority, right? If
Mhm.
something is very important and it's SMS delivery, right? That
Mhm.
is a priority versus email or promotional message. So if we go that route, then I can envision having different data message stores for each of them, because
Mhm.
to handle the latencies and stuff differently. But otherwise, if I'm not considering that point, then I can just add a field to it saying like what's the delivery mode, right? So that next time that particular, like I don't want something that was tried with SSMS to be delivered by email next time, right? So I also need to keep track of like when the message failed, was it an SMS failure or email delivery,
Okay.
right? So yeah, that's another way of looking at it.
So let's say one end-to-end flow. I'm
Sure.
a I'm a publisher. I published a message like
Yeah.
we have a coding design session tomorrow, and I have a lot of subscribers who are subscribed by email or SMS,
Right.
and how your flow will look like.
Okay. So that is like, so I publish a message. I have a set of servers. Uh,
Mhm.
now, so it hits the topic database. I mean, you mentioned you don't want to go in this thing, but just a quick note here. I like to think of, anytime I have database sort of thing, I
Mhm.
like to kind of put a sort of a, another component in front of it, which is
Mhm.
like a caching stuff,
Mhm.
because I see these topics and subscribers more as read-only intensive databases, right?
Okay.
So if I have some sort of layer here,
Mhm.
it's more like, I don't know, like or something, where this application server will hit this cache store, right?
Mhm.
I mean, this will serve two purposes. One is, given that it's read heavy, caches will optimize that. The other thing is, in terms of architecture, if I at a later time, if I want to change my database, right, from let's say relational to some other store, this architecture pattern can help me hide that implementation detail. So I'm looking at cache store more as a front end sort of the interface to the application server, right? So I can change my database at the later point, but user doesn't need to worry about it, right? Or not user, I mean application server. This is more like a sort of yeah, interface.
Okay.
So so coming back to the flow, so when the publisher publishes a message, it gets to the cache store. right? If the topic, basically I'm hitting it to get the topic ID, right? So let's say I find the topic ID here, then
Mm-hmm.
just return it from here. I don't need to hit the database.
Okay.
I take that topic ID and message and I send it to the message store, right? Of course, I mean, there can be other optimizations that can happen here, but at a basic level, so I send it to message store, and then from here, I can further, go with this architecture about my send. I can have a set of senders actually to, if I go back to the requirements about availability, I don't want to have a single point of failure, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I can have sort of a load balancer here too, and a set of senders, which further be split into these delivery threads, right? Oh, by the way, the sender also, like I said, it needs to figure out who are my subscribers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to pull that list. And then based on this serve architecture, it kind of sends the message to subscribers. Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think here are the bottlenecks?
Yeah. Let's see. So the thing is, talking first about, let's say if I look at from this side, right, from publisher side, um, one bottleneck in general, like about hitting this network, like database, that is good with cache store.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the other thing is, uh, I mean, given the number of requests I'm sending from publisher, right? If I also go into the thought about rate limiting, right? Like a publisher can only send, let's say, 10 messages, right? Something like that. Then I also need some sort of rate limiting, mechanism at this end.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if, I mean, we didn't talk about it, but I'm just thinking now that we are talking about bottlenecks. If there is some monitoring component, I didn't take into account that anywhere in the architecture, but that's a little different. But looking at this architecture, bottlenecks can be, so this is load balancer. In general, I would also have replicas of load balancers, right? I don't want this to go down. Um, Cache store, I can have a distributed cache store, right? Um, because, if this is hitting, multiple servers are hitting my cache store, I can design this as a distributed cache. Um, and I mean, there can be a whole different set of algorithms that I can talk about in terms of distributed cache. How I want to make sure that which cache store to hit based on hashing mechanism, or like what if one node goes down, right? One cache node goes down, then how would I investigate that? So that's like one area. I don't know if that's something you want me to go into, but that's another part. The other thing is, so talking even about message store, I can even have, you know this, like not copies, but a set of message stores, right? Depending on my number of messages I'm supporting. I need this to be scalable.
Just to time check, I think we have just 1 minute, so
Okay.
we need to wrap up in 1 minute.
Yeah. Um, so let's see. So what are so bottleneck here can be, I don't want this to be single point of failure. And we talked about what if a subscriber message delivery to a subscriber fails,
Mm.
right? Or if it takes too long, right? I need some approaches to handle that. Um,
What about your set of threads which you are doing?
Yeah, so like I was thinking of set of threads as, to kind of parallelize it, right? So if I want to have, I need basically a way to create certain number of threads, right? And I also need a way for them to execute, right? So since I was talking about parallelism and stuff, one idea there is whenever we talk about thread pool, right? We want to have, let's say, 10 threads, that we create in the beginning. And whenever a sender picks a message, it just assigns to a thread and it executes it rather than creating thread at that time, right? So there can be like, I can think of this as, sorry. I can think of this as thread creation,
Mhm.
and I can think of it as thread execution.
Mhm.
So I'm saying that I can optimize this phase by doing it in an eager way, right? Like just maintaining a set of threads ahead of time. And whenever a new message comes in, just allocate it to like that worker. Uh,
Okay, I think we are good here, DP,
okay.
and we can close this stuff. Uh, yeah, I got your idea. I got your understanding. So I think this design is doable. So thank you so much for this.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, I think we can open for the audience.
Thank you, Asim and DP. That was wonderful mock interview. Um, so should Asim, do you want to give your feedback or like let's go to audience first?
I think let's go to the audience first.
Okay.
I just need to process. I just need time to process.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, I will not give a better feedback.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a
Um,
yeah, both did good, wonderful job. So, anyone from the audience have any questions or
yeah,
comments?
thank you, Asim and Deepi. First of all, I think it's a good design. It's a good question, and it's something that is people are doing a lot of in the industry. One caveat I see over here is my am I audible properly?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm hearing my echo myself. So the problem I see, or something here I see, whenever you have at least one component which is same in the pipeline, that's where
Yeah.
the bottleneck comes into play. Like you have a one database, be it a SQL, NoSQL, or so message. Since messages themselves are not um, related at all, why we need to have a database at all? We could have uh, maybe a blob, uh, uh, a separate storage, or somewhere it can go A, B, n number of or so. That's one point. Second thing is, if I see the design, it's a one sender, right from message store to a sender.
Yeah. I
Now,
mentioned about having multiple senders, but I didn't draw it like that.
okay, so then I missed that point.
Yeah.
So the thing probably here is when a publisher is publishing thing, then he is supposed to get an act that publish successful. That's a pretty right
Yeah.
thing that you said. And when a message comes into the system, it's actually a work, right? So as you put a message somewhere, be it a blob storage, be
Yeah.
it a key value store or so, you need to create a work for it. The reason I'm saying this because we are already doing this in our team.
Sure.
Um, it's actually a work. So a work item store or work item something is like it can keep track of if a message has been sent to all the subscriber, if it need to be deleted. So message not necessarily need to be deleted. It is the work that is completed and can be
I
deleted.
see.
It could be a queue, it could
Yeah.
be something, and there can be n number of application servers further. So which I don't see here. You mentioned that as a thread. So one application set of application servers for receiving from the publisher, and one set of servers or threads which can act as a sender. So there is a lot of work. As soon as something comes in, a work is created, and then
Yeah.
that work can be taken up by multiple threads, and it can
Right.
keep track of whether it has sent to A, B, C, all number of subscriber or not. And when
Yeah.
it is done with that piece, it can remove its entry from the work item queue.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
think that's a
so
good
one
suggestion.
question here, Hitesh. So, like, to do everything, there are a lot of designs possible, right? But first, like, whatever design has been discussed, we should find problems in that and then come up with a newer design, right? So, let's say, like Dippy has mentioned, that we are using a database store to store the messages and we are deleting the messages from the database. So, do we know what is the problem in that design before jumping to other design? Because there could be multiple designs, but like But first we should know, like, I don't know what's the problem with this design, that having a database, keeping the message in database, deleting the message from database.
No, I
Yeah.
think what Hitesh, if I understood it right, Hitesh, you can of course correct me there, but I took it as that when you are having a message in a message store, right, be it database or just a blob store, right,
Mhm.
rather than saying I'm going to take out message from this, have some sort of queues, like let's say a running queue or a completed queue, sort of to kind of mark them, like that, and then have these multiple sender components that I touched
Yeah.
upon.
That's a yeah. I think when I started when I started discussing this piece, when I started saying about this piece, is that's where I came to. That's why I said the bottleneck. When there is one component
Yeah.
which is same across, the lesser we have one component, the more scalable the solution can be. Like having a sender
Yeah.
which reads from A to B, or having one database where your IOPS are limited in the database, right?
Mhm.
Be it a publisher, be it a sender or a reader. So that could act as a bottleneck.
Yeah.
And then after, and that's my point when I'm seeing this design. It's the scalability concerns. Everything is everything is supposed to work smoothly, as long as it's a small set of input that is coming in. Now, it's also possible when your sender reads from a message store. Suppose the machine goes down, or the data center goes down, or something goes down, that the message is also lost, right?
Well, so for that, I need to have some mechanism at the message store level. Either I have replicas or something to ensure that I definitely want this to be durable, right? I don't want message
Correct.
to get lost.
So when you have one component, like if I understood correctly, your sender is the one that is getting from message store and then sending it over to subscriber, right? By the virtue of threads or so.
That's true. And I also, I mean, I didn't draw it here, but I was envisioning multiple senders because I don't want this component to go down,
Hmm.
be a single point of failure. So I was
Okay.
thinking I need to have set of senders.
Okay.
Uh,
Let's say you have set of senders,
yeah.
and they will extract the message out of message store, right?
Yeah, like there needs to be some way like message retrieval approach, right? Read messages.
So how?
So
Uh, I mean, one thing is if I have multiple senders, right? Then let's say
mhm.
sender picked a message from the store. There is one approach about making that message like invisible or mark it some way to say that it's in processing, right? So that another
Mhm.
sender also doesn't pick it up.
So that's what, like, I was wondering. Hey, TP, I will annotate here. So
Okay.
I was envisioning this would be like a kind of a queue
Mhm.
where your sender, multiple senders can pick, and once it was able to send it to all the thread, it has enough threads to pick and send it to all other.
Yeah.
So that time it will ask that store to delete the message.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then all other places, like uh, all of your other components, I can envision that as like a separate microservices. So we'll just send it to them, and then they will take care of what to do, the
Mhm.
attempts, and what other things they want to do. Or it could be like a HTTPS module. So I envision in this way, like what I felt based on your design.
Yeah. Okay.
So and you told like you will have multiple servers.
Yeah. Hitesh, did you had something else?
Yeah.
We just interrupted there.
No, I think that's the only my point
Okay.
was having a bottleneck here, which is one piece which is consumed by n number of them. The only the scalability piece which I had here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think this will
Thank
work
you.
if we replace this message store with the queue, and then multiple senders talk to that queue.
Yeah.
So whatever scalability we are applying in a queue we can apply that to a message store also, right? Why?
Yeah,
Why?
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
So there are scalable databases, right? It's not we don't have scalable databases.
Yeah, of course we have scalable.
So like a single point, like a single database, we have never said it's a single database. That
Yeah.
database
So
should have replicas and everything.
correct. I mean, I didn't draw it like that, but my
Yeah,
thought process was I was encapsulating it as, okay, this is
yeah,
distributed.
exactly. So
So was it a key value store that you were discussing, Deepti?
Yeah, key value. But I was saying that I just draw it as like one box here, message store,
Okay.
key value, but I'm envisioning it as a distributed and having copy.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
I
if
think
you
the queue is really helpful here, because initially I was concerned if the sender is down, how, and when it go back, how does it know, where it was? So
There
it
can be
keeps
mechanisms
pushing
of,
the
yeah.
message to the subscriber, but with the queue, it
There
solves
can
this
be,
problem.
I mean, yeah, there can be approaches around. I mean, I haven't worked on this particularly, but just knowing the concept level, I know there are concepts around offsets, right? Like we can maintain offsets, like where was it last time when the sender was trying to read or stuff like that. And
yes,
and we also have to ensure that given that we have multiple senders, that there should be some synchronization, right? Let's say if I'm sender one and I failed while reading second message. Now my pointer is at message two. But let's say that message was already processed by sender two while I was down. Now when I come back, I don't want to start from two, right? Because it's been processed by another sender. So I think I need some mechanism to kind of maintain those offsets.
Yeah, that's the visibility of the queue help,
Yeah.
right? Because let's say the sender go down, and it does not acknowledge that it's already processed a message in the queue, then a message gonna be visible in the queue again, and another server can pick it up and send it.
Yeah,
Well,
one more.
I don't delete that message from the store, right? Until I know it's fully delivered to a set of subscribers. So let's say a sender processed a message and it went down, right? In that case, there can be an issue around duplication, right? If that, let's say, node doesn't come back for a day or any certain time period. Now, then I think I would have to do a trade-off with respect to duplication. I mean, that's not.
Could we solve duplicates?
Sorry.
Could we solve duplicates?
Could we solve duplicate? That's a good
Yeah,
question.
you write the auxiliary message store, right? That could have the message, the subscriber ID, the number of attempt, right? So, when it go back, let's say, this send to the subscriber, one or two times it's been failed. Then we send attempt one more time. Then that wouldn't be send a duplicate message.
Yeah, so I mean, I think maybe in this example also, I believe Dippy mentioned one of the example, like order management system, when somebody is sending a request to create an order. So that's also one place where even if the acknowledgement has not come back, and if you have to make a request again, it is not supposed to reprocess. As an example, right? You go to a store, you swipe your card. It is not expected to have any possibility of a duplicate or so. It can be done by a handshake between the publisher and the subscriber, or actually the receiver. Every time you're trying to send a request to the subscriber, it can have a unique key, which even if you're sending it twice to the subscriber can maintain itself that it has received that key successfully earlier.
Yeah,
And don't need to.
Right.
Because I'm in commerce team in Microsoft, right? So we have the same problem already. And we deal with it this way.
Sort of a token stuff, right? That I've seen this token.
Yep, correct. That's a token. Yeah.
The server will maintain like some kind of idempotency whenever it is receiving, hey, this particular message ID already I
I've received,
yeah.
Like that, right? Like some kind of, that actually makes sense.
sorry, I didn't get the last part. Like how Can you please reiterate?
Yeah, I can. So, take an example. There is a portal. You are buying something from it, and you are pressing a submit button that now place an order. And there
Mm-hmm.
is a service which call on HTTP or whatever the protocol is there. So
Mm-hmm.
when it will make a request to the service, it will have a key attached to it, a unique key that this transaction, you can say it is like a cart. A cart updated every time a cart is updated, it has a different key altogether. Think like that way. So when you are clicking the purchase button, that request will have a key and or a token, like CP said. This information goes to the service, and then it sees it has, and that is actually because the request can go to different application servers, right? They will maintain a key in some database to make sure that this request has already been processed. If this request has already been processed, you are not going to process it again. So in the current model, the subscriber can check if it has received this message already, even if your server is sending again,
Yeah.
discard it.
So
Yeah.
this logic we need on the subscriber side, that
It's a
subscriber will
handshake.
check
Yes.
that if that message ID it has already processed, then it will not process it again.
Yep.
But who guarantees that the senders sends always the same key, right?
It's the same message, right?
Yeah. So
Even if you
sender
try
has
to
to.
get the
Message,
message.
but are we looking at the message or a key to identify that
Can
message?
we create a hash, something like?
Correct. Yes. A hash of a message or something that can be created. I believe it is only at the sender side. So probably publisher or anywhere or in the message store, we don't need to store anything. A kind of a hash will should suffice the need, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know if that could be pure hash of the message also, right? Because there could be same message sent twice. There might be a need to send the message
No,
twice.
I mean there can be more like
Yeah.
message plus publisher ID. I mean some way of.
Some timestamp of receival.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it
It
can
can.
have a number of components in it to define unique message.
So when you say, so that responsibility would be somewhere here.
And the subscriber, not
On the
the
subscriber.
No, subscriber
the
could be SMS. My phone. So you mean like when I felt like this is iPhone. So I got a SMS. That's it.
mhm.
So basically, this guy is sending a message to me.
Well, like I said, I mean, different applications, different use case also. The example I gave is like in order management system. Like, you go to store, right? Sometimes the swipe does not work, That system has to make sure that, that even if you're swiping again, the request has not gone actually. Your card is not supposed to be deducted twice,
Yeah.
right? So duplicates are not allowed in that scenario.
Correct. Correct.
But the duplicate would also need to be handled, on on the notification side as well, right?
Correct. So actually, there is a very amazing example of this one. Like, if you guy might have seen in the news, somebody bought a 200 Teslas when they was wanted to buy only one. So probably it was not handled in the portal. So somebody was clicking submit button again and again to buy the car, and ended up having so many. So that was not handled there. Ideally, it should have been. In some places, it is handled. So the ideal cases where you don't want duplicates at all, so you have to handle this in a way. Well, in messages, it doesn't cost much. In emails also, probably it does not impact much. But there are implementations where this thing is important that duplicates are not allowed, should not be
Like
allowed.
transactions and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if a subscriber does not have that logic, then we cannot avoid duplicates. Like
Yeah, it's a
what Asim is
handshake, right?
saying in the messaging system, if we are just sending SMS, then probably I don't think so there is a way to avoid it. Then you can send duplicates.
Possibly, I don't know if all the messages system has. I don't know. WhatsApp is also a messaging system. Is it handling? I don't
Yeah,
know.
if WhatsApp as a client, it's running on my machine, and there is some logic that I will not show a duplicate message ID again, then I can handle it. But if I don't have that logic on the subscriber, then I don't think so there is a way.
Correct. If you don't have this logic, then it becomes hard problem to solve.
But even like, someone mentioned that we don't want to receive the duplicate message, over and over again on the phone, right? Because that's gonna, cost a lot of money, right? So the dupe also to, heavily implement on the notification side in that case.
Yeah, unless your sender
only, yeah.
If sender does not get a handshake that my consumer has received it, should it try to? It can definitely be, said in the how many times you will retry, and then simply fail afterward if you're not able to reach out. Like messaging system, like your phone was down. If your message, if you in your phone, right, your message has not been received, it will keep on trying, maybe 24 hours, 48 hours. I do not know how much it is, but I don't know if the retry logic for this particular case. Ideally, if a message has
Should be
sent,
like an exponential backoff mechanism. So I think there should be some retry, which will keep retrying in an exponential way. Ultimately, it will go to days, months also.
Yeah.
And then after some time, I think there is some way they put it in expired messages or dead letter queue or something, that it will retry after this much number of times. But if the subscriber is down, then it will not retry forever. After some time, that message will get expired. And
Yeah,
then,
there should be a cutoff. Yeah, which should have been agreed maybe during.
And while we are discussing this, that we have so many scenarios where sender is sending to subscriber, right? And you have to maintain so many things like A, B, C, the send, expiry time, exponential time. So this is basically a work, right? Maybe it makes sense to segregate this from the message itself and just track it somewhere else.
Yeah, so you're trying to say, like, in terms of work perspective and also the payload, right?
Yeah, the payload is separate thing.
Yeah.
And this information, when sender is or threads are trying to send it to subscriber, it entered in a different state, exponential. So this is basically a work and a lot of information related to this work, that who all it has sent, how it was, and you need a timer also, right? When you say exponential, right? It has to light up after expiry and all that. So it's a different work.
So in interest of time, let's come back and focus on the mock interview. So any other comments? Any other folks have?
so
I must say that it was very well captured. Sorry.
Yeah. No, Hitesh, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I think it is very well captured in terms of the requirements or the functional and non-functional things and all that. It's a beautiful done by you, JP.
Thank you.
And thanks for enlightening. There are a lot of things new to me, and I also learned from this.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hitesh. Abhishek, you are trying to say something.
So yeah, so I agree with Hitesh. Yeah, I think there are a lot of components in building a message. It's very complex, and as Hitesh said, it's used a lot. So it was a very good topic to pick, and Deepik covered a lot of topics, lot of components, which is great. The 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 thing I want to understand overall, I don't also know what's the right thing, but so the thing is, like, if we are discussing a system design on anything, right? So there are so many paths, there are so many designs possible, and like every topic itself is very deep. So like a lot of times I have seen we just cover the breadth, that this is the thing. So like Asim, as a interviewer, like you just let the interviewee explore what all the things are, and like I see overall none of the problems are actually solved exactly. Like we were discussing this issue with duplicate messages, how duplicate messages are solved, and so how if some component fails. So I see that like we don't cover that one particular topic, and we just keep on exploring, like, and in the end, I like overall, I as a listener, I don't like overall get like where did we end up? What are the, like, I mean, during the interview, Dippy was going in the cash store and all. So yeah, those all are good things, having caching and all. But was it very important for this system design interview? And like this, there were so many, like in NoSQL, Dippy went to different type of databases, and it's not. I mean, she has her knowledge, so she would want to show her knowledge that I know these topics, right? But as a interviewer, probably shouldn't it be better that, hey, I'm not interested in types of NoSQL database. This problem is about designing a publisher subscriber model. So let's focus on that, because as a interviewer, you have only got 45 minutes, and in 45 minutes, it's advantageous for Dippy that if she can show whatever knowledge she has, but it isn't it up to you to like exactly focus on what components are important and not spend any time on component which you think is not important to actually solve this problem. So, and also the other thing is, like, there are a lot of variables, like there are a lot of things we can do in multiple ways, and we don't ever agree on what we want to do in this system design interview. Everything we try to keep as abstraction, that I mean, as generic, that we want to do this also, we want to do this also. Like initially when the question was asked that do we want to maintain the ordering, so like I think there should be a definite answer, that is it important or is it not important. uh, the answer I heard from your team was that it's right now it's not important, but let's later come back and see what we can do. I mean, with this, there are a lot of variables that keep on accumulating, because we have not decided on anything. That with this answer, like I'm not sure that is ordering important or is ordering not important, because you're saying let's not maintain the ordering, but let's later come back and see what we can do. So yeah, I mean, basically, if it could be different style, but if we try to explore every branch of a tree, then probably we have not exactly done anything what we actually wanted to do in that design.
Yeah, I think I agree with Abhishek to those points, because in anything that we do, there are a lot of trade-offs, right? Unless we have a solid path that we want to go in, then we'll be like, okay, there are these trade-offs, the trade-offs and all, but we will not solve the exact problem unless that exact problem is defined. And but again, this could be a choice of interviewer, like Asim, as a choice of him is to see like how much the interview the candidate knows about different things and all. So that could be a choice of interviewer as well, right? It's not necessary that interviewer is uh, wants to make sure you solve that problem in a perfect way.
Yeah.
But I think we could take that approach, like instead of leaving a lot of things open-ended, maybe we can have one approach to make sure like we really solve the problem and define that very clearly, like what we want to solve.
Yeah.
I also agree with Abhishek. I think at least maybe in a real interviews, yeah, we want to practice a see a real interview thing here. But in real interview, then maybe things you want to keep it open ended, and then come back to them later and all that. But I think for this session, probably maybe I think we can scope it so that we can focus on the real block diagrams of how the things are going to flow in a different component.
Yeah, it actually depends. Actually, even if Asim keeps it open, like for now, like as an interviewee, we can always say that like first I will solve this problem, then I'll come back to it. So that means that you're closing the ordering at this point. So you're not considering that in a solution. So you're trying
But
to design a solution without that.
generally, isn't it the responsibility of interviewer to scope down that what problem he's interested in? Because
No,
I
no, but
don't.
I felt like DP asked that question, and that was Asim's response. In that case, the thing is like, so Asim is leaving the decision to an interviewee. So sometimes what some interviewers feel is, um, leave as much as decisions to the interviewee, judge like what how they'll make decisions, like how they'll make assumptions. So just to, I mean, like some people
Yeah.
will tend to go that way.
Yeah, but at the end, it's judged by whether you can solve the problem, right? But if you allow them to branches to different, different path, and then at the end, the interviewer will judge like, okay, would the interviewee answer all the question?
Yeah, so
And
I think,
not gonna
And now
yeah.
it's not fault of
ask.
the interview because she was exploring all the branches and she has only 45 minutes. So what can she do?
Yeah, my thought there was that when, and I'm thinking more of it as like, there are different styles of interview, right? That somebody can, one, I can land into one situation if I appear for an interview where somebody gives me that kind of, ambiguous that, okay, we can keep it in version 2, but we can come back to it later or something like that. And I totally see the challenge about, the architecture can be impacted big time based on, when you tell me that this is supported not now, but later on it can be. So my architecture can be, highly impacted. The way I would handle that situation, rather than saying that, hey, you need to give me exact specs, which is very valid, but I am looking at it more as, what if I'm not given exact? Then how would I make sure that I don't kind of, it doesn't impact my review, right? So when Asim said ordering is for now not important, later we'll see, I would handle this situation as clearly specifying ordering not covered in this, iteration, maybe later. And then in my interview design, I would make it a point that maybe when I'm discussing this message store and I'm saying that I'm not considering ordering here, but maybe put a note somewhere that design can be impacted and making it clear that this is what I'm designing based on what he or she said,
So,
the specs were given. I mean, I would handle it that way, but it's a very valid question. But I think we need to look at it from both ways, right? You can't control the interviewer. Like, then the question is, how do you safeguard your position?
Like, frankly, for me, it becomes very hard at this point because if the interviewer is saying that ordering, let's keep it
Yeah,
unordered for now, but later let's come back and see. Then overall, in designing my system, I am
yeah,
always confused that should I also consider this situation that I have to order it because the interviewer said that later we want to
I
come
see
back
what you're
and see.
saying.
And so like
Yeah,
in the entire interview, I'll be always confused that what should I do? Should I take it order or unordered? Because interviewer has said that later we
yeah.
might
It's
want to
more
come back.
about, I mean, how flex. Yeah, I see your chat,
Yeah,
concern.
in this case, basically the ordering is a key design. Um, I mean, like feature which will drastically change the
Impact the
architecture.
architecture.
Yeah, so that's why, I mean, like it's yeah. I get your point, Abhishek.
But
what I
can't we just solve? I mean, if we land into that situation, won't this thing help? That if we say, okay, I'm just going by no ordering because that's what you said in version 1, and about the system flexibility, my system can change, right? But maybe put it as a, that.
so okay, let me put you on a spot, DP. So while designing the system, every time was that in your mind, like I have to do ordering?
Well, that's really putting
The
me.
question is that if I get this requirement, and all the time I would be thinking like, okay, I have to do ordering. I would not able to do anything.
No, so that's where I presented my perspective, right? It's not a general opinion. I took it as, I just kind of put you back in that position where I said, okay, you told me ordering is not important for now, and I can only cover in 45 minutes one scenario, right? And if you later on, let's say we have time and we are like, okay, what ordering is important? Then maybe I'll throw some ideas and that can totally change my architecture. But then I take it as I can't cover it. And that's on interviewer that, that's not a good interviewing style that if somebody tries to make me go through a design using two different complete requirements that can impact my architecture. That's my thought process, but I have very limited, like I have almost no experience in these interviews, so I don't think I'm the right person to vote to find.
So I see 2 points here. One point presented by you, Abhishek, and one is Naga. So what I felt like, give more control to interview and see like what if interview. You can also say as an interview like, okay, I want to do ordering. Then I should not stop you. You could have a design in your mind which you can do ordering. You can support ordering as well, and or it could be really loose system where you can say no, never go with ordering. But the question you asked me, like ordering is important, I want to give more onus to you, and then I told like, okay, if we get time at the end we can circle back on that, like what I can change in this design at the end to support ordering. And it could be something always like if it is v2 also, you don't want to redefine your entities if you are going on to v2. Like if you have delivered a V1 and then I'm telling now we have to go to V2, that does not mean like I have to cut down the entire design. It could be like in your database, you store like timestamp or something, which can be later I can piggyback.
I think Abhishek point was more generic, and you can correct me, Abhishek.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm not saying, I'm saying that this is my problem. I'm not saying like I will always be confused, but I think it's my problem. I need to solve it. If other people are like again, like I got confused with the duplicate statement also. So there was a statement that do we need duplicates or not? Again, like I don't know how to design a system, whether duplicates are allowed or not allowed. Again, we were in the middle answer that, oh, 1 or 2 duplicates are okay.
Correct.
For me, in requirements, I got so confused that what exactly we want to build, what is okay, what is not okay. So yeah, I think it is my
It's a
problem.
valid concern, yeah.
So I think this is so I think that is a good ask. And in this case, I think with the interview, we should have a really close then agreement that, okay, I'm not going ordering this iteration. Or I could not, I will not handle duplicate. And I think if, so I think that is a good ask to get clarified and covered.
Probably, Asim, I think you are like very gentle, and probably you don't like, you want the interviewee to go with his flow. And that's why, and in your gentleness, you don't give that, okay, if you're thinking like this, okay, think like this. But I'm saying that probably you need to be more harsher, that I want this design. I want, like, for me, I don't want to have duplicates. And for me, like, ordering is not important. So then it's more clear for the interviewee also that these are requirements.
Yeah.
I think maybe this is a kind of feedback for how we want to conduct these mock sessions. One session could be the way, the style that Asim chose. The other style could be like what Abhishek is asking for, very solid requirements, solve the exact problem.
Yeah. I see there are two things. Like Naga, you also mentioned earlier, there could be interviewer who just want to see different aspect of candidate knowledge or things candidate can do, and there could be one aspect where interviewer actually wants them to solve end to end. It would be like Abhishek, it would be only these two requirements. I want to get it solved at the end. I don't want anything else.
So let's do that style of interview in one of our sessions, like exact problem style.
Yeah, I think it's for practice, let's scope the problem, very well. And, later we're good at it. We can, have an open end so that, the interviewer, when they interview and then let's say, some feature was added, and, we can say, okay, look at the requirement that's not included. So we, not gonna do it, right?
Yeah,
so we're strictly doing that and get good at it, and then we can open, up later.
So one thing there
areas where I did see that Asim tried to scope it up, like in the sense I was going into topic database and subscriber. So Asim did try to, narrow it down and said, let's focus on message store and stuff. So yeah, yeah, it really depends on.
Yeah, in general, the scope of an interview is only two persons out there, but here there are more audience than the interviewee, right? So and everybody is also like when they are listening to problem statement and all that, they are also thinking of a solution in their mind, like it will go this way
Yeah.
and all that. And with the wider scale of a requirement, it can go haywire for the people. I see. Then maybe we can have a next session which is scoped to and then see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it also at the end, the decision is not based on mainly by the interviewer, right? The feedback have to send back to the committee, and they want to see if the problem have been solved. Not like the interviewer think explore different paths to see if the interviewee understand this concept or this situation. That does not help at the end.
Okay, I think this is a valid point. So let's see how we can do this in future sessions. But I do like putting on the other side. I do want candidates like to ask some questions during the requirements. I mean, like though they give some scope. I mean, like because that's generally expected, right?
Mhm.
And
Agree.
yes. So any other final or like we have another 5 minutes, and then maybe we can just conclude on the feedback and discuss the plan for next sessions.
Did we get Asim's feedback?
Asim did.
Yeah, a quick one on here. I think this by design, this one is already in order, right? If we think about, each topic represent, we write to one partition, right? Let's say, because a partition is like, let's say only a single thread. So, it always first come, first in, first out.
I don't think this is ordered.
But this is a database, right, on the original design, correct?
Because
Yeah, it
you
may not be
subscribe
ordered.
to a topic, right? That topic can represent a partition, right? Because there are many topics in there, but this is, a topic. And then think about the publisher. They publish the message to that topic. That write to one partition, and there's only one single thread on that partition. Then it have to be first come, first in, first out.
Yeah, if single thread, then only, right? Per topic.
Okay. So time to conclude. Then we can just discuss the next sessions. So in general, like from my point of view, I think DP you do pretty well. Like I think you went in systematic manner the requirements, and one thing you also discussed about scalability, but like on storage requirements, I haven't seen like any estimation like how much the database storage related needs and how many numbers of messages on an average possible. I know there was some discussion on the number of subscribers, but like
we did talk about message size and in general number of messages, but yeah, I didn't really go into specific phase.
Yeah, and one other thing which I noticed is like if you had a good, I mean like comfortable diagramming tool which you are used to, you could have done better in the diagram.
Yeah.
So yeah, since you just figured out during last minute, but still I think this is good. And one thing I think which I notice is like the more senior that we get, the more aspect of system design we will be evaluated. So one aspect is like apart from the trade-offs and the decisions. So there is a monitoring aspect which you need to do. How you identify the failures once you get the system working, and how do you tune your system? That comes from monitoring, and
Yeah.
so yeah, that is something which you You can
I
try to.
mentioned about it, but
One question on monitoring. Monitoring is for every component, right? Why do we need to explicitly speak about it? Every system you are making, you have to have
yeah,
monitors for it. So
Yes,
it's,
yes,
I think
yes.
it's an
I
implicit thing,
agree.
right?
No, it's not like implicit. I mean, like I see people expecting system design interviews, like which I have experienced as a feedback. Like you have to talk about it. So you need to at least say that like you will have some monitoring mechanisms to how do you identify failures. So we are just talking about how you are solving the problem, right? It's not that like nobody designs a perfect system at the first step. So they will have monitoring and they'll continue to tune according to the needs and stuff. So monitoring is like one of the key.
That's
Yeah.
a good point, Naga. Thanks for
My
sharing.
point was that it's so important that it should happen in every like mm, every
and yeah,
system.
every
So
component. And the other thing is like when I mentioned about monitoring, I felt that depending on the details, right, that itself can be another system design question,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like
Yeah,
monitoring
yeah, correct.
service.
Yeah, that's correct.
So,
Were you expecting anything monitoring, Asim?
Was that a question to me?
Sorry, Asim. I mean, was he
see,
expecting, just for my own understanding,
yeah,
that were you
like in
expecting a
the
monitoring response?
Okay, I think I can share my feedback. Okay.
so Asim, there was a specific question here. Somebody was asking about monitoring. Like, were you expecting monitoring component?
See, I was not expecting monitoring, but I have seen people talk about monitoring on their own, and because this is a distributed system, if you see, and if somebody is just at the end or somewhere in the middle or somewhere mention about monitoring, like all these components will have their logs and monitors because that will help me in avoiding these failures or single point of failures or anyway, like your center is down, how I will know the center is down. So it's a very key fact for a distributed system that all the components sending there enough logs so I can monitor it. I as an interviewer, I don't want to go into details, but if you talk about it's a bonus point for me. Like then I will understand that okay, this person has a good experience with distributed systems because I have not seen any distributed system is perfect until somebody manually intervene on the monitoring logs.
Yeah.
That's what we call that on-call period alerts. Otherwise, how I'll know something is down? It could be down for weeks. And for there could be other components like your threads or other things, or
Analytics, basically.
in between we spoke about dead letter queues. How I will know dead letter queues are growing? It became like 1 million. How somehow somebody come and take a look until it's a self-healing system. So yeah, that was my 2 cents on that.
Thank you, Asim. I think and Naga, I this is for me learning, right? In system design, like like this, it's good to have a disclaimer or something, maybe, or share a couple of minutes that there will be monitoring. You never know if an interviewer was expecting monitoring
Yeah.
or not.
Mhm.
So there are, I think, when we talk about distributed systems, we will talk about scalable, uh, available, and always monitorable. Because otherwise, you won't know what is scalable or what is available. How you will calculate
Yeah.
if you don't monitor your availability.
So
That's
my
a good point.
yeah, yeah. So this is more like, I think it again goes back to how we want to read the interview, because I felt that at one point when Asim said, can you capture end to end? And at one point I was like, we can have monitoring, but then it just got diffused, the topic. So maybe like, what's in general your thought about, like, just kind of mention it, and then if the interviewer really wants to go in there, then go a deep dive, otherwise.
So I think if I would be you and I have to tell about monitoring, and when I'm discussing this bottlenecks or failures, that point I can say that, okay, I see a bottleneck here and could be a failure point.
Oh, right.
We have a monitoring logs to
More like detection mechanism. Yeah.
detection mechanism. So that time I would bring that as my like a magic stick to
Makes sense.
Yeah, this normally comes like when interviewer goes deep dive on one of the specific problems. So in order to solve the problem, or like how you identify and do
No,
that,
and I think this
you
can
will
be a very
eventually
good,
give that solution. Yeah.
yeah, this can be a good template, right? Anytime you want to talk about failure.
Mhm.
no, I'm just throwing ideas and and now I think we have only a few minutes left. I can just quickly share my feedback. So overall, thank you so much, DP, for taking doing this. It is not an easy problem, and we don't do it day to day basis. So it was a tricky problem, and you covered well. And you covered I think you covered most of the things, requirements, high level diagram. You went into deep dive and you spoke about components. So you were able to cover a lot of things in that. If I have to take this to a next level,
Yeah.
things which we can do different is, I think more practice is needed to quickly to, to kind of a compartmentized that okay, this much time I'll spend on requirements and I should not go beyond 10 minutes or something like that. It's like a mind map that okay, I have to do this and then go to high level thing, and then keep on marching towards different components and also take the interview to right here. I thought like we spent couple of minutes here and there, and also I have to change the direction. Okay, I want this, and then like I mentioned at one place, like I okay, for now I don't care about this topic and subscriber database, but I have to again come back and say okay, like I'm not that much worried. Like let's come back. Let's only focus about this message store. And then when I told end to end, then I wanted that a message and say like how it get delivered and if there are reasons how that works. I think somebody also mentioned that when to a caching thing, which might not be required here. So I think uh, sometimes it's onus on the interview also that which to identify okay, this looks like a high priority or like this is my V1, so I should first circle around that. And and I know last minute changes of this stylus pen, so that was I was not that much worried to change the direction because I knew that you have this constraint, and I know if all these things would be we don't have this technology limitations, then it would be more smoother.
Yeah. Overall, I feel, yeah, sorry, I'll let you complete.
Yeah, so I think that's all my and I think I also got a good feedback today that to have a very closed set of requirements, but that's not kind of my style. If I would be doing a real interview also, I would be trying to see what is the other person's perspective rather than putting my hard perspective on that person. And other thing just came to my mind on this ordering thing that systems like SQS, which says like we don't guarantee order, but that doesn't mean like they will send everything randomly. There's always they'll still try to maintain order. It's not like they never try to maintain order. But at the same point, this is a 45 minute thing. We can't solve everything. So better to have really one concrete set of requirements and follow that. So yeah, so good learning for me as well.
Okay. Thank you, Asim and DP. With this, I'll stop recording in my